Bakersfield Congressman Kevin McCarthy has introduced legislation to hold California's high-speed rail project accountable. This bill would freeze federal funding for the project. A total of $3.6 billion in federal funding has been set aside for the high-speed rail, and $2.9 billion has been obligated. $715 million of that remains unobligated or unspent. This legislation would freeze the $2.9 billion that has not been expended, and all of that $715 million. Joining us now in studio tonight, Congressman Kevin McCarthy, talk about his high-speed rail bill and an interesting matter involving the Social Security Administration. First of all, thank you, Congressman, for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Can you elaborate on the reason behind your high-speed rail accountability bill?
Well, first and foremost, if you look at what this project has been doing, they don't have a business plan. How do you know that it's ever going to be funded? What came before the voters said there'd be money, private money, and state money. The state has never sold their bonds. There's been no private money. This has just been federal government. Now, I believe as an officer of the federal government for representing this area, we should have a feasibility study before we make any investment. Will this project even be finished? What will it cost? And what is the ridership of it?
How come these bonds haven't been sold?
Well, they haven't gone to market because of the financial mess of California. And think for a moment, if they do go to market and put $9 billion out there and pay it over 20 years, it's going to cost them almost $1 billion a year when we have a $25 billion deficit. So what schools are we going to close for the high-speed rail project?
So you think this high-speed rail project is, in essence, a runaway train?
Well, it's not just me. You can listen to some big supporters in the Democratic Party that think now that it's gone haywire as well. This is something I've been very concerned about. Even if this thing did get built, you'd have to subsidize the riders to ride the train. Now, how can we afford to do that? And if you study history, they worked very well in Europe. Europe is very old. They have a bigger population from one point to the other. And if this was such a good idea, why doesn't the private sector invest in it?
So what about the route through Bakersfield and the prospect of demolishing several buildings at your alma mater, Bakersfield High School, to make room for these tracks?
Well, I think that's unacceptable. First, they say they would go right next to it. You know, the freshman class at BHS has 922 students, just the freshman class. What if there was an accident? They have the train up on rails above it, falling over. You know, I think history is worth keeping, and I don't know that this ridership or this rail could actually make it. So I want to see a feasibility study done. I want to see accountability brought to it, especially before we spend any more money on it.
Well, Congressman, earlier this week, switching gears a bit, the Wall Street Journal reported that Social Security administrators instructed workers to slow down disability payments. The reason for the slowdown was so the administrators would get credit for processing the claims in the school year. So according to the report, this would help the Social Security managers achieve year-end bonuses. So what's being done about this, and since when do civil servants qualify for bonuses? Well,
that is just unacceptable. It just came to fruition that we were able to see it in the Wall Street Journal. Right after that, I joined with Ways and Means as they brought into the Social Security and asked the individual to come in and start answering these questions, but also to investigate it. One, they're getting bonuses if they don't provide somebody with something that they qualify for. So the structure right there would start denying people. And then to slow it down, for an individual that qualifies for something, that is the wrong form of government. That's a wrong way to manage. And I find time and time again we see more and more of that.
What are you going to do about it?
Well, first and foremost, we're going to make sure it is stopped, and we're going to find how this even came to fruition. Ways and Means is holding a hearing to bring them before it and make sure that, because they have direct jurisdiction over it, make sure this never happens again.
Congressman Kevin McCarthy, thanks for being with us tonight in studio.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Well,